Hello, and welcome back to Food Entertainment, this time for my review of Star Trek Insurrection from 1998. It's another one of the Star Trek films that is looked down on that I think is great. But I'll be very honest with you, and you guys have probably figured this out. I think they're all great. Except for the exception of Star Trek The Voyage Home. And I only have a problem with Star Trek The Voyage Home is because Star Trek The Voyage Home has it has a great story, but it has flawed execution of the story, and it concentrates more on gimmicks. But yet, it's overhyped. And that's the reason why I have issues with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, is the fact that they're overhyped. It's like, ignore all the other Star Trek movies, just concentrate on these two. And I can't do that, okay? I recognize that there's like 13 Star Trek movies, alright? There's 13 movies, and you want everybody to concentrate on two. And that's certainly the case with this one. I think that because of an overhypement of Star Trek 2 and 4, and of course the overhypement of 6 and First Contact, people really did not really pay much attention to this one. And I think that's kind of the case, because Star Trek Insurrection is a great installment in the Star Trek film franchise. I would say this is pretty much a very ambitious Star Trek film, which is very interesting considering the fact that it's a PG movie. Star Trek First Contact is a PG-13 movie. And Star Trek has been ambitious with a PG rating, like, for example, Star Trek The Unscripted Country, which had a little tiny bit of gore in that movie, and although it's still only PG instead of PG-13. But Star Trek Insurrection is pretty much a very ambitious Star Trek movie. And what I like about it is really the plot of the movie is really well, but what is very interesting is it's something that we can all relate to if it comes down to this. I've only seen this done one other time in a very really cool way. And that would be 2017's T2 Train Spotting with Ewan McGregor and Diane Lee Miller, which is one of my favorite films. And probably my favorite film of 2017. This film did it first. In our lives, as men and women, we get to an age that where we can look back on our youth and see that we made mistakes, or see that we're not what we used to be. And it's something that we can all relate to, and this film does it very, very well. And I really like seeing how, the characters kind of go back to being youthful because of their regeneration. Because it will make more sense when I go into the plot of the movie, but it's just really cool, the story, and how it ties into that. I just like the fact that this is the first time in the movie series, when it comes to Picard and his crew, there's romance when it comes to Picard. We've seen Picard have romances with women in the Star Trek Next Generation series. But we've never seen that in a movie. And there's definitely a romantic connection with Picard, with one of the key characters in the movie. And I think it displays really, really well. I like it. The action in this movie is spectacular. And this film is certainly not gothic, although it does have some interesting villains. I just overall like this movie. It's one of the Star Trek films I go back to when I want to watch a random Star Trek movie. And that's kind of how I phase out my favorite Star Trek films, is which one of these would I just go and watch at random? Rather than doing it in sequence like obviously I have been. Which Star Trek movie would I actually watch at random? Which ones would I not watch at random? And this is one of the ones I would watch at random. Well, let's go into the plot and premise of the film. The Federation is having a invisible survey of a planet inhabited by 600 people who were off-worlders that came to this planet hundreds of years ago. What's interesting is the very same people that came to this planet 100, sorry, not 100, but a few hundred, yeah, a few hundred. Matter of fact, it never really was described in the movie how old these inhabitants of this planet actually are. But miraculously, they have not, well, the way I look at it, when they first came to this planet, they were old people. And by being on the planet, there's something about the planet's atmosphere as well as the ribbons around their moon and stuff like that, that pretty much caused them to regenerate into their youthful form. And they have colonized on the planet. And then, of course, the Federation is investigating it. In tone with a alien species that wants to remove the inhabitants from this planet and experiment on what makes people who are old get young and pretty much have immortality, called the Sona, which is, of course, our villains. Of course, very little known about them. Data malfunctions due to sabotage. Someone sabotages him, and he malfunctions. And the Enterprise has to capture him before the Enterprise, eliminates Data. So they get involved, and Picard very slowly finds out about the plot to remove these inhabitants from the planet, which is a violation of the Prime Directive, the biggest golden rule of the Federation, not to interfere in the affairs of other planetary species. And so Picard goes against the Federation and goes rogue, pretty much, to keep the Prime Directive acknowledged. Basically, he defends the Prime Directive against the Federation. And in doing so, he discovers that the Sona are actually the same species as the inhabitants of this planet, which are known as the Baku. I haven't mentioned what they're called. Of course, Picard obviously has a romantic interest in our main woman of the Baku. He was teaching him about, staying in a single moment in time and how it can last forever and stuff. And obviously, like all of the adult inhabitants of this planet, of the Baku race, she's immortal. And so, kind of cool right there. And of course, there are things that are not really cool about the immortality stuff of regenerating people's cells and stuff like that. Geordi, for example, his eyes regenerate, and he can actually see like weekend. So definitely interesting. And of course, Worf acts like a teenager with adolescence. Troy and Crusher are more sexual and going on, youthful female appetites are exploits. Riker and Deanna have a romance that they haven't had in years, which of course eventually leads to them getting married in the next movie, which I thought was kind of a cool nod. And Picard kind of goes into youthful action hero mode. That's one thing I like about these movies, is Picard is a badass in them, and that's what I like about the Next Generation movies. Is Picard is like Captain Kirk in these movies. He's kicking ass, and he definitely does in this one too. They discovered that the Sana is actually members of the Baku. They were young teenagers that basically left the planet to explore the galaxy and the universe. And they were denied by their own people. And so they are on a blood feud revenge to eliminate the Baku. On a bloodthirsty revenge tale. Of course, Picard destroys their plans and stuff like that. Destroys their little doomsday device that would destroy the planet and all that. And pretty much that's pretty much about the movie. But it's just a really good movie, in my opinion. I also like how it makes you look back on your youth a little bit and see how you used to be and how you are now. It really definitely shows some cool stuff about that. Because nobody who grows older is the same person they once were. They always evolve. And I think that's interesting. The combination of youth and experience, young and old, kind of go together hand in hand in this movie. Well, audio and video quality. The film's picture and audio are amazing in this movie. The picture of the film, again, like Star Trek First Contact, looks like it was made today. You could show this movie on the screen at the cinemas today, and it would actually feel like a 2018, 2019 movie. It wouldn't feel like it was made in 1998. There's no nostalgia about it at all. Perfect balance. Also like the fact that, like a modern movie, when they have lighter sequences in the film, it uses more of a cooler temperature. When they have darker, it uses more of a warmer. And I really like how it really does that really well in this movie. The audio quality. It does not suffer at all in this movie either. It is very well crafted, good direction. Everything about this is a great sound source. Definitely enjoyed Star Trek Insurrection from 1998. If you haven't seen the movie, I suggest you watch it. It's a great film. That's all there is really to say about Star Trek Insurrection. I hope you enjoyed this review. And I will see you guys next time for my review of the final Star Trek Next Generation movie, and a film that has been held as the one that destroyed the franchise, but in my opinion is a great movie. And much overlooked. Should be 2002's Star Trek Nemesis. Until then.